Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Handford, and my wife, Dennae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. On the podcast today is Ivan Hunt. Ivan, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Ivan, we would like for you to get us started and just talk to us and our audience a little bit about your background, who you are, and where your focus is right now as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. I'm originally from a small town called Hickory, North Carolina, foothills of the mountains. I was born and raised there, left there and went to the military, was stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 101st Airborne Air Assault Division, got married and moved down to Miami. Went through a series of events, a divorce, homelessness there for a while, and, got a degree in accounting in the process. Not sure how, but I did, and joined the corporate world. And after probably a little over a decade and working in healthcare finance, I had an epiphany that, this no longer aligns with who I am. After a lot of discussion with my wife, I decided to resign, and I pursued my passion of becoming a coach. So I got certified as a coach. And that's what I currently do now. And I just published my first book called Boot Camp for Personal Success. So that's currently where I'm at right now.
So what kind of coaching specifically are you focused in?
My specialty is men. When I went through a lot of my turmoil in life, I realized that a lot of the social programming that I had undergone as a man really hindered me in my relationships, particularly my failed marriage, but also even in my current marriage. At the early stages of it. So I realized that a lot of times we're not taught to reach out for help. And I feel like I'm someone that can relate to guys, obviously. And I'm a man's man to some extent. So there's not this inner feeling of shame to say, hey, look, I need help. So that's my specialty.
Well, I think there's a big need for that in the world today. And I think that that's a great avenue for you to go down. And I want to make sure that we get the full title of your book again, because I want to make sure we put it in the show notes, which can be found at the toughdecisions.net website. Can you share that with us one more time?
Yes, it's called Boot Camp for Personal Success. It's on Amazon. You can find it on my website as well at ivanhunt.com.
Awesome. Well, I want you to start us off with a tough decision that I like to call the sore thumb tough decision. It's a tough decision that kind of sticks out in your head that as you've grown as an entrepreneur and gone down this journey, it was a decision that you had to make, and it really didn't turn out the way you planned it. It didn't turn out very well. You don't necessarily regret going through it because you probably learned a lot of lessons through it, but dive into it with us and talk to us about that tough decision and some of the lessons that you learned through it.
One of the things that I went through early on after I resigned was I always had a corporate structure, but I really wasn't sure how to structure a coaching practice from an entrepreneurial perspective. So as a result, I hired a business coach / business consultant, and he was kind of pricey, all things being considered. We 10-digit pricey. I mean, not 10-digit, but 5-digit pricey. And, made a lot of promises, put a lot of faith in him, and it didn't turn out so well. The only thing I really got out of it was a website, and it was a very expensive website. But the lesson in it was, you kind of have to pay your dues. Not everybody is going to be as forthright and honest, and have the integrity that you want to share or receive from other people that you give. So not everybody's going to match that. And I think it's just, some of it's just a cost of doing business. You're going to get shortchanged somewhere. And so it was a tough decision to continue to give that person opportunities to fulfill their obligations. But eventually I had to make the decisions that, I'm going to terminate this agreement. If you continue to pursue, then, I'm going to take legal action against you and, and terminated the relationship. But it was a painful and costly lesson.
Well, I will tell you that I have made that same painful mistake before as well, and choosing the wrong person to coach me and getting 2 weeks into a contract, and same thing being 5 figures and basically having to eat that 5 figures. So I can definitely sympathize with you about that. What are some of the things you do now to kind of, mitigate that risk as you move forward?
I always think that what's really important is you have a counsel. You have a small group of people that you can really consult and confide into. And my biggest confidant is my wife. She's an entrepreneur. She has an entrepreneurial spirit as well. So she and I discuss a lot of those things. And if she has any inclination that this might not be a good deal, then I'll usually go with her, intuition. there are occasions where maybe I'll make the decision on my own and proceed from there. But I usually run it by her, and I have a couple other people that I'll discuss certain matters with just to make sure that I've covered all the options and, other people's observations other than my own.
Well, and here's a question for you, Ivan. With that decision that you made to hire that particular person to coach you and to be mentoring you, did you have any inclination from your wife at that time to determine whether or not she thought it was a good idea?
Well, here's the irony of the story. It was actually somebody that she suggested.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sometimes you're going to come across people who are just really great salesmen, right? And they'll sell ice to a Eskimo. And so, it's just, like I said, that's just kind of the cost of doing business sometimes. I started seeing red flags, a few weeks within the into the agreement. And she and I started to discuss it, and we realized, okay, sometimes people are just excellent salesmen, and you buy the product and they don't deliver, and that's just the way it is, and you just have to let it go. You have to forgive, right, and move on and keep it moving.
Well, I'll tell you that the story that I was mentioning where I lost out on a lot of money because of that bad decision that I made, which was very similar to yours. My wife actually said at that time, she actually mentioned and voiced her opinion that she didn't feel like it was the right move. And I really just felt like it was the right move, but I had a little bit inside of me that was saying maybe not, but I just felt like it was a great opportunity. And when I moved forward with it and I was 2 weeks into it, I knew I should have listened to her. And so I think definitely listening to, your wife's opinion and the intuition that God gives her is very important. And
right.
Even your own self. I mean, a lot of times we make decisions as business owners and we know that it's probably not the right decision and there's just something inside of us, but it's our ego sometimes that gets involved or our emotions that get involved. We have to really remove that and start to use logic and listen to our intuition. And now moving forward, since that incident, I say it was an expensive mistake, but it's what allows me to not make those same mistakes, but also mistakes in other areas of my business because I now listen to that intuition more. And whenever I have that intuition telling me no, and sometimes I don't even know how to put a finger on what it is, but if my intuition or my wife's intuition is saying, hey, back up, don't do this, hold back, get more information, we always do that.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And it does help you. Experience is the best teacher. So you gain that insight, you gain that wisdom from that situation and experience, and you apply it to future decisions. And, just hope that you make the right decision at the right time for the right reasons. And more times than not, if you do those things, good things will happen.
Oh, I want you to shift here now and talk to us about a tough decision that you've had to make as an entrepreneur that had a really good and positive outcome.
There's been one recently that I've had to make, and it may not sound like a tough decision, but the decision was, do I keep going? Right. So, sometimes, starting a business is tough. This has absolutely been one of the hardest endeavors I've ever undertaken. In corporate world, it's very structured. There's a lot of security. And the initial decision for me to leave corporate to pursue entrepreneurship was, I thought, a tough one. The toughest decisions I've had to make is, do I keep trying when things aren't going so well? I recently even got to a point where I applied for a job. I didn't even tell my wife, I just applied. And, I'd hit that wall where, okay, what am I doing wrong? I've done everything I think I can do. And I think a gift and a curse that most entrepreneurs have is perseverance. We have this innate ability to just continue to keep going when all arrows are saying quit, when all signs are saying give up, this is too hard, you're not going to make it. And so we're blessed with that gift to keep going. But it's a curse because you have to endure the pain. And that's, I think, so I made that decision to apply for that job, went to the interview, and decided just to absolutely bomb the interview. I wanted to just screw it up so bad that there wasn't a chance that they would even hire me or consider me. And the decision was to keep going. And as a result of that, opportunities are opening up rapidly all over the place right now. And so I'm grateful that I continue to push forward in my dreams.
Ivan, talk to us a little bit about the strategies that you use when you are facing a tough decision.
A lot of it goes back to intuition, really. I can't say I have like a 3-step process to making decisions, but I do, to some extent, look at What have I done in the past that might be similar to this? What situation have I encountered that's similar to this? What was the outcomes that I got then? What were some of the lessons that I learned about myself during that time? And then I start asking myself other questions. Okay, where can this lead me? What is it that I'm trying to achieve? So I don't really have a strategic process when making decisions. A lot of times I just observe and just trust my instincts and just go with it. I take a lot of chances too.
So we can break it down and say your 3-step process is: number 1, listen to your intuition.
Yeah.
Number 2, listen to your intuition.
And number 3,
listen to your intuition, because I would agree with that.
Yeah. I really don't have, some people, they do pros and cons. So one of the things I do as a coach, right, is I help people make decisions. And so there's certain process and certain tools that I teach them, to make decisions, pain gain, what are you going to gain in the current state versus the future state? If you don't make the change or don't make the decision, what are you losing and what are you gaining? If you do make the decision, what are you winning and what are you gaining or losing? So there are tools, but for me personally, those tools don't always work well for me.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and hear from one of our show sponsors. When we come back, we'll talk to Ivan about some of his favorites as it relates to his life as an entrepreneur.
Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. And we are back with Ivan Hunt, and we're going to go through a series of quick questions and answers with you, Ivan, that we call the trifecta. And I want you to get it started by talking to us about your favorite technology that you use in business that helps make your life easier every day.
Hootsuite. Hootsuite. It just helps with my social media. There for a while, I was actually going through each of my social media and finding posts and doing it every single day, and I was spending an enormous amount of time on it. Finally, I got smart and found a social media, distributor, if you will. And so I can schedule all my posts in one day for the rest of the week. That has saved me an enormous amount of time.
And what's a favorite quote that you've heard that's helped you as an entrepreneur?
It's possible. You say to yourself every day, it's possible, by Les Brown.
And a favorite book that you've read that's helped you make better decisions?
Boot Camp for Personal Success. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I don't read too much, but I listen to a lot of audiobooks. The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles right now is still heavily in rotation.
What is that one again?
The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles.
Got it. And what's the next thing for you right now on your vision or your dream board, Ivan?
To really expand on my speaking, we're having a book signing event here in Miami, and we're really pushing, to get more speaking engagements. I like sharing my story. I like helping people. I love being a part of people's success. So my speaking is what's really being focused on next.
Well, and how can the listeners reach out to you if they want to start to follow you more or connect with you?
You can find me on my website, ivanhunt.com, IVANHUNT. You can find me on social media, Ivan Hunt, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. They're all the same, Ivan Hunt. I keep it simple.
Well, and we'll make sure that on the toughdecisions.net website, on the show notes for this episode, we'll include links to all those different channels for those that want to go back and review that. Thank you so much again, Ivan, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. Look forward to continuing to follow you and look forward to having you on a future episode.
I appreciate you having me on here, and I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.